once again, third time is the charm. So we'll try this again. Okay, so yesterday I talked about how I had to go with my parents to their eye surgery appointment because they were having eye surgery, right? So I had to be there to drive them back. And it was fine. We talked about it in advance, got it all set up. It was fine. And yesterday, of course, there was some drama on getting out of the house and getting there. And my dad was just like choosing to stay as negative as he possibly could and, sighing and just all this kind of crap the entire way to let us know he was irritated that we hadn't left right when he'd wanted to, even though he also knew not everything was ready to go at 7 o'clock when he wanted to leave. And he still chose to go sit in the truck rather than, help my mom, who's currently got a broken arm and can only do things one-handed, rather than helping her get ready, right? So he chose to pout, and I had mentioned that, like I said to him, it's like, okay, you can choose to remain in your negativity. I said, and we will certainly be late. I said, or you could choose to just calm your ass down a bit and start trying to be positive, and we have plenty of time to make it. And of course, he chose to, stick with the negativity, as I knew he would. And honestly, the kind of unspoken daggers that he was sending my way, I was just sitting there thinking, do whatever the fuck you want, old man. As soon as I'm gone, I'm gone. It's because I literally am so detached from this scenario anymore that I'm ready, when it is time for me to go, to disconnect completely. I'm ready to let this go. Tired of the negativity, tired of all, the constant, just ickiness, right? So, he's kind of, just keeps up with that to let us know that he's just pissed that, we didn't move fast enough, even though he knew my mom has this broken arm and, she's kind of limited on what she can do anyway. He still chose to go sit in the car at 7 o'clock rather than help her to see if that could possibly speed up the process and get her into the car faster. So, whatever. You want to sigh and, throw a big temper tantrum, that's on you. I don't give a shit. So, of course, he chose to go that route, so I said, if he chose to stay in the negativity, I don't remember if I said that in this video or if the one I cut off a second ago. So, it's you can choose to stay in your negativity, and we will certainly be late, or you can choose to, simmer down and try to be positive, and we will be able, we have plenty of time to make it. I said, it's all on you. And, he chose to stay in the negativity. And so, therefore, we caught literally every single stoplight that we came across. And there was one that there was so much traffic at the light that we ended up catching it 4 times before we were able to go through it. And so it was a big ordeal on that end. And then, when it finally came to light that he didn't actually know exactly where we were going, he just had a rough idea of where we were going, I googled the address and hit directions, and it said that we had already passed it. Well, since he was choosing to stay in his negativity, he also chose to disregard what I said because he didn't buy it. Probably because it came out of my mouth, right? It's all right, I literally don't care. So he keeps going on his path, and we catch 3 more lights that we had to wait through, right? And I put in a different app, a different GPS app, to verify that we were in fact going the wrong direction. And of course, it said the same thing. And so after we go through 3 more lights that we have to sit through, he says, "You said turn around?" It's yeah, turn around. Go the other way. So he finally turned around, and then of course we had to sit through those 3 lights again because, we were just catching them all, right? That's how we were rolling. And by the time we pulled in by the building, it was literally we pull up in front of the building, at 8:06 when he had an appointment at 8:05. It's like literally all you had to do is stop grunting and groaning and throwing a tantrum, and we would have been able to be here on time, because it's like literally a minute late. It's like we had plenty of time had you, not just been acting like we just fucked everything up for you, and then therefore we were the reason you were going to be late. Well, I mean, you basically just sealed the deal when we were late, so who cares? I don't care. My mom didn't have to care because she had the later appointment, but it was his appointment. So there's this whole drama thing, right? And then I had this really cool experience because, I had to take something into my mom. Like, I had time to, after my dad got out of the truck, to go park the truck. I got a text from my mom saying she forgot her sling, so I grabbed her sling, and I get to the front of the building, go inside before they're even on the elevator. The doors open up like as I'm going in, and I tell them not to, don't let the doors close, and I run over there and I toss them the sling. I was like, I'm not going up. So I went to the bathroom, and when I got back to the truck, I look over, and there's this hawk that flies into the logo on the side of the building, right? And there's like these 4 blackbirds that are sitting on the roof kind of waiting for the hawk. And then when the hawk comes out of the emblem to try to fly away the other way, it swoops down really low over the cars, and these 4 birds were on attack again. We're going after it. And of course, there are reasons why this happens in nature, of course, but the message that I really received from that was, it's like, like the hawks are the messengers, and, they kind of have a higher perspective, if you will, higher sense of knowing things. But then, when they try to, or you try to share these things with it doesn't work in the nature spiel, I get that. But the message that came through was, it's like, it doesn't matter what positive, encouraging messages you might have to offer in. If somebody is hell-bent on staying in their low-density negativity, they're going to do it, and it's like the only thing that they're going to do as far as you trying to offer another perspective is, attack, and that's basically what I'm realizing my life has been, right? So, I've talked about being scapegoated by my family with, my toxic father and mother, and, how I always had this sense that, there was this underlying communication between the two of them, that I was a problem and had to be stopped. And what it was I was a problem to their illusion. So the way they chose to try to stop me was make me the scapegoat, right? I'm the problem, so therefore I have to be squashed as much as possible. So my whole life has been wrapped up with lower density energies basically seeking to squash me in all ways they possibly can to keep me from being able to ruin the illusions, right? And it's actually kind of funny because it's there are so many different layers to this. I feel like I've always kind of known what, this whole YouTube thing has been kind of crazy in and of itself, because, when I started it, I basically had allowed the lower density energies, because I didn't have boundaries. I didn't understand the need for boundaries or any of that stuff. So it's just, I was just doing what I was conditioned to do, which was allow people to squash me, basically. And anytime I tried to be true to myself was especially problematic for the world around me. And okay, This is another story I talked about from my class yesterday. Somebody mentioned the cardinal, and I had completely forgot about this whole situation, but I think I might have mentioned it the other day. Actually, I don't know if I ever talked about on here that it was a cardinal nest. Anyway, other day, I opened the curtains in the front of the house, and of course we have this like picture window, and there's rose bushes in front of it. And the other day I opened the window and I see there's a little nest in there, right? In one of the rose bushes. And it's got a little egg in it. I didn't see what kind of bird it was. I just saw it was a little brown speckled egg. And my first thought was sparrow. I kind of left it at that. Well, then the next day I go in there again, and when I open the curtains, I discover it's a female cardinal. And she, of course, flies off to the tree from sitting on the nest, and she's just kind of staring at me, and I'm just kind of staring at her. It's like, oh, well, it's a fucking cardinal's nest. We're gonna, like, take extra caution to not fuck this situation up, because I love cardinals, right? So, I mean, sparrows are okay too, but whatever. But, you know, I thought a lot about that's not a good place because, 11:11, because if we have a delivery and the dogs can see any part of the delivery truck or whatever, Taz especially, barks nonstop, like, until the dude, like, whoever, okay, say the truck pulls up, he starts barking. Guy gets out of the truck, eventually walks the packages up to the house, or sometimes it's multiple packages, which is a big pain in the ass. You know, as long as this whole process takes, he has, like, the hair on his shoulders and his butt standing straight up and is barking like crazy. You know, and so when I'm thinking about this bird nest being in this bush, it's like, man, that is not a good spot for to have a house with that kind of chaotic dog, right? Even though I love my dog to death, don't get me wrong, still needs a chill pill. Definitely needs a chill pill. But anyway, once I realized it was a cardinal, I adjusted the curtains so, you know, so like the two biggest rose bushes in front of the house were kind of partly concealed by the curtains. When I got back, I had mentioned to my parents that I had discovered it was a cardinal's nest, and so we should be a little cautious, right? Well, in my having mentioned that it was a cardinal's nest, for whatever reason, my dad never opens the curtains. There's a lot of them that if they're open, they stay open most of the time unless I shut them, or if they're shut, they stay shut unless I open them. That's just, I'm the one that likes all the light, apparently, and, you know, I'm opening the windows every time it's nice enough outside, and we can do that. And let me just say, this freaking lilac bush is amazing. We got this full bloom situation, and, like, when it's really breezy outside, you know, like I think last night, I had both my mom and my brother when he came over. He and Gracie came over for dinner. It was the night before last. I had him come stand in the door because it was really breezy and, like, it was just blowing in. It's like, oh, this lilac bush, I love it so much. Especially this time of year. So, a little natural air freshener if we have the windows open, which, if you've heard my other videos about this house, you know that's a necessary thing. So, anyway, when I got back home from walking the dogs that day, my dad had flipped open the curtains the rest of the way. It's like, this man doesn't do this. So it's like, if I say anything about it, it's like, usually he's going to go about the opposite, or, oh, you said do this, I'm going to do this instead. You know, that kind of a thing. And just kind of be a pain in the ass. So, it's really kind of, you know, okay, that's a kind of a narcissism thing, honestly. And, like, I've gone back and forth about whether my dad's truly a narcissist, and my mom for sure is. My dad, he's at very least very toxic, but he has this thing currently where he will start pouting and go tell my mom that I never have a kind thing to say to him. It's like, huh, that's interesting. I'm not the one that called him a dumb bitch. He's definitely called me that before. You know, and if you want to see my kind of reaction to that afterwards, it was a video that I did from November 17th, 2023. And like one of the things I said at the end of the video was, or at some point in the video was, I fucking hate my life or something. I'm sick of my life or whatever. And it was literally because like that was the first time he actually threw dumb bitch out there. But it's by no means the end of that sentiment for that man. So that man child, we can't, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, last night he started doing something on that end too, pouting at my mom because I came in and saw that a trash bag that I had taken, okay, my dogs are devious and will get in the trash can, and I knew since I was taking them to their appointment yesterday, I wanted to make sure that bag went to the trash, right? So I had time to do that, but since he was already in the truck and we were running behind, you know, I took the trash out, but I didn't put the bag back in. He never looks when he goes to throw things away. And like that's the easiest trash can to tell if there's a bag in it or not, because the bags are usually like gapping out, which is why the dogs are a pain in the butt with that one, because they grab them and jerk them. So, yeah, so he had just thrown some trash in this trash can that didn't have a bag in it. And when I got back and like from my class and saw that there still wasn't a bag in it, because it wasn't sticking out of the trash can like it does, I went to put a new bag in it. And when I did, I found the trash that he just threw in there. And I said, it is a shame we cannot look to see if there is a bag in the trash can before we just throw shit in it. It's also the same man that if there is a box on top of the trash can or anywhere else for that matter, he'll just start assuming it's for trash and like, you know, just start throwing his trash there instead. And it's literally because I'm not cleaning up after him. If I see, okay, like he's notoriously bad about leaving coffee cups everywhere. And so if I see a coffee cup on the table and it's been there a couple days, I'll go put it on his desk. I'm not cleaning up after you. This is not my fucking job. So, yes, this is the big ongoing issue right there. So, yeah, once I kind of fired off about that last night, then he's going on about how mean I was, talking to my mom and whatnot. And I just can't do anything right. And my brother was sitting there. It's like, whatever. It's like not even messing with this. You know, just said my piece because the damn trash can was a whole hassle rather than just, oh, hey, there's no bag in this, then maybe I should put a bag in it before I throw the trash in it. And he's done that before with like coffee grounds. And then there ends up being like nasty, wet coffee grounds all over all the, like the whole trash bag roll that's in the can because there wasn't a bag put in it, which usually if I normally take the trash out when we are not in a hurry to go somewhere, I stop and put the bag in it right then. He's the one that doesn't really do that. He's kind of hit and miss. Or he'll take it out, and if he remembers, maybe he'll put another bag in it. So it's kind of that situation. But yesterday, since we were in a hurry for their appointments, I didn't get it done. You know, and I didn't notice it until that evening. Which, yeah, anyway, just annoying. Anyway, back to the cardinal, right? Because that's where this wandered off from. So it's like, as soon as I mentioned it's a cardinal nest, so we need to be careful with this whole situation. And I was thinking about, okay, well, maybe, yeah, just open the corner on either side, and, you know, we just kind of deal on that end for a while. And then I come back and he's got it like wide open and all that stuff. When I looked later that evening, because the bird was gone, I noticed there wasn't an egg in it. anymore. And I mentioned that to my mom, and she was like, what, you think she packed it up and moved? It's like, no, but she definitely abandoned that nest. And I went outside, and she had rolled the egg out, and it hit the concrete foundation and, you know, busted. Yeah, of course, it fell out of the nest anyway, so it's going to bust. But, yeah. So I was like, yeah, she abandoned it. Told you. You know, and it was a whole annoying thing. But anyway, yesterday, I had to stop and call my brother, like after the ordeal at the eye center. We have this thing where if our parents are acting up, we just kind of send the emotionless emoji, is what he calls it, where it's like got the thing where it closes its eyes and then it just has like the straight line for the mouth. It's like, yep. So we just kind of send that one to each other when our parents are doing something stupid. And so I sent him that one, and he responded with that one. And then as I was walking back to the car, since it took a while, I had to pee a couple times while we were there. So I called my brother on the way back out the second time. I was like, oh, it was after I did my video yesterday. And I said, I have this whole spiel, but I said, there's so much to it. I want to just tell you what happened. And I told him, and he was like, talking about how he gets really sick of that, the overgrown child temper tantrum thing that my dad or our dad always does. It's like, yes. I was like, so we were a minute late to his appointment, but we didn't have to be, but we were. But yeah, so last night my class, I told them about the day, give the rough overview about the deal with the friend that was inappropriate the day before and all these things, and then, you know, talk about like the hawk and the blackbirds that I saw, and you know what I kind of got from that experience, or that whole situation, as well as just what I've been learning about it in general. Later in the class, somebody mentioned cardinals, and then I remembered the story, and so I shared the story with the class, with how, you know, there was almost there was a nest, and there was an egg, and then there was no more egg, and all this stuff. And of course, people, oh, that smells so good. Just blowing in the lilac bush. I love that bush so much. Anyway, of course, they didn't really get where I was coming from on it. It was like, oh, that's sad, but it is nature. And Annie said, well, you know, she'll build another nest, and we'll lay more eggs, and they'll actually survive, and it'll be fine. It's like, yes, but I realize it's like this whole thing is literally like for me, for like the lessons that, you know, like the universe is teaching me for having experienced these things, right? Ugh. The Galaxy app thing sends me random statements, and it says something about mom deserves the best, send it, or give her blah blah blah. It's like, anyway. So for the class, you know, yes, I shared those things. Okay, and I will get back to that point because there is more to that. We did a couple healing frequency things that we listened to, and, you know, like chakra alignment stuff. And at one point, Lisa had brought in this, she called it a practitioner's wand, and it's like a singing bowl on a stick. And it was like really awesome, right? So she brings it in, or she has it up there, and like she said that one is specifically for the throat chakra, and she said she uses it a lot in her, or has used it a lot in like her healing practice, because like she used to be a massage therapist, I think. And you know, when she said she gets a sense, of course, like through her hands, if like there's stuck energy, and like she has used that countless times with her clients, because everybody can really stand to have some healing on the throat chakra, because there is a long history of, people getting silenced, especially if you want to think about any of the patriarchal systems that stemming from religion that want to tell you that women aren't supposed to, they're supposed to be submissive to their husbands and not supposed to have anything to say. If they have a question in the church, they need to take it to their husband outside of the church, and he can consider whether it needs to be brought to the church's attention or something. That kind of bullshit, right? Because of things like that exist, and because there has been this ongoing history of people getting shamed for even trying to use their voice, which, that's been one of the big things that I've been working on for myself with this channel, right? Is healing that for myself. And I have talked on here a ton about how, I was always shamed anytime I was never given the opportunity to use my voice. It's like, of course, also like that whole idea of children should be seen and not heard, that kind of a thing too. It's like all these different layers of people being silenced. And mainly because if, like the governments and whatnot, if they can keep us silenced, then they can go about doing their business and like screwing us all over because we're not talking about it. We're not rallying together and unifying against the issues that are truly problematic, right? So yeah, so she has the singing bowl, and she like does the thing where she like hits it, and she shows us how she kind of waves it around, and they walked around the room just kind of doing this thing anyway, right? So she talked about the girl that she and her husband take Lisa to the class as well. And she said that she used it on her because she's trying to get into writing and been having issues with really opening up and being able to use her voice. Because again, this is like layers and layers of within the collective of people not being able to use their voice and actively being silenced. So then we come to these other things, and like I've always known that I was supposed to be using my voice, but I didn't trust it. I was terrified of it. I'm talking so much, my throat hurts. I have always been terrified to use my voice. And part of that goes back to like the shit with my cousin spreading rumors about me and like, my family, rather than actually trying to figure out what was going on. They were afraid I was going to damage the family name. The family illusion is the bigger thing. And so it became a thing of shaming me and making it that much harder for me to use my voice because I was going to embarrass the family in some kind of way. And I can't say it's entirely wrong, but I think it was a little misguided with with what they thought it was going to be versus what it's more likely going to be, because, my grandpa was all about buying into the idea that, I was just a whore or whatever, and shaming me and doing everything to point out everything that was wrong with me because I didn't conform to his standards. So I tried for years to conform to his standards because I was shamed so much, like forever, that like that was all I knew from my family, right? So, of course, I've talked a lot on here about how there's nothing to mourn for me in my grandfather's death. It was like I mourned that man's death for 33 fucking years before he finally had the audacity to die. And it was literally because he was sucking the life out of everybody else. And as long as he could keep you in fear of not fitting into his standard, not being up to up to par as far as he could tell, then he was thriving off of your life, like your life force energy, because you weren't being able to be true to who you were, right? So, yeah, so he created this nightmare. But, I've talked about how back in August, when he was in the hospital, I realized that I had spent 33 years of my life mourning his death and he hadn't died yet. And I said, I will not do that any longer. And, of course, I had started setting boundaries, like back in January 2024. It was August 2024 when he broke his femur and, all hell broke loose from that end. It's like, as soon as I started setting boundaries, I could tell a difference with how my family was just in general. It's like their health started not being as good as it might have been otherwise. They started, it's like it sped up the process on their falling apart, right? They're giving into old age. But it was literally energy vampires sucking the life out of, like, especially me and my brother, because we're so much older than like the rest of our cousins. It's like this family, it's like the offspring. It's like ooh, new blood, it's like literally to suck the life out of them. So there's a robin in the waterfall, but the waterfall's shut off, otherwise I'd show it to you, because Josh from the swamp asked about it the other day, and I haven't shown that yet. I mean, of course, this is only, I think, the second video I've done since then, so we'll get there one day. I thought about it before I started the video, but if the waterfall's not going, that means that it was making noises because it needs to be filled further, and I don't want to hear the noise while it was filling either, so I left it be. Anyway, not the point. He's gone now too, so anyway. So yeah, like, it's kind of interesting. Well, I mean, I've talked about that a whole bunch too with my cousin. Okay, so my grandfather finally died back in December, and I've talked on here several times about how I had to have that conversation with my mom the weekend before he died, where I said, at some point, it has to be okay for this man to die. He cannot live forever. That's not what this life is for. So, yeah, so, like, it came after this whole ordeal where my brother and his wife and daughter weren't going to the hospital, and I wasn't going to the hospital, and we were told everybody's there except for us. And we were just like, don't care. It was like, also, not everybody's there because, our cousin Josh wasn't there either. I mean, granted, he never comes to family things anymore, but there too. It's like everybody that would be there was there, right? And we were kind of reading loud and clear that she was pissed at us that we weren't there, and weren't jumping through hoops to be there for her and for her family and all this stuff. And mind you, it's because we were pulling back and realizing that they were literally just sucking the life out of us the entire time, ever since we were little. That is what they've been doing to us. So when we stopped feeding into that toxic cycle, it actively shifted that dynamic, and grandfather, who should have died a long time ago with his obsession of death, finally started slowing down and really getting to the point of finally kicking the bucket. So anyway, yeah, don't get excited. I know. She's all excited. I just don't want her to start getting carried away with wanting to do the thing. The word that I goofed and said earlier, I think in this video, I don't know. Might be the one I deleted. But anyway, when I had that conversation with her finally, and you know, my intuitive voice the entire way over there is like, yes, we're gonna do the thing, yes, good job, and you know, a little hype from within. And I got there, and of course it was like awkward shit. Like, I sent a message to confirm the room number because it was a different one than the one he'd been in when he got sent out to the nursing rehab place on before Thanksgiving. And you know, so I sent a message to the group chat, so my brother and sister-in-law got it as well. My dad did as well. But ouch, ooh, my hip just popped. When I sent that message about what room is he in, she responded and said, oh, I'm so glad you're coming. He could really use a hug from you. It's like, I've never hugged that man in my life, and I don't intend to start now. You know, and I've talked many times on here. It's like, that is one thing I cannot tolerate, is for my family to touch me. And it's just that energetic clinginess. And it's like, if you allow them to in your space like that, it's like the energy latches on that much harder. And it's like, ah. It's that much harder to clear from your system. Yeah, so, where was I? Oh, one of the things I said to my mom, then, okay, of course, I'll go ahead and say that. She made a big production when I got there about, you know, like, she come over to the side of the bed that I was on and moved his table out of the way so I could get in there and give him a hug. And I looked at her, and I looked at him, and I went and sat at the foot of the bed. It's like, nope. And then when he was, like, reaching for his water, I pushed the table back over so he could reach it. But it's like, I'm not doing that. You know, so every single time my brother and I had gone over there for anything from August through November, because he died early December. He died December 3rd. It's like she would always follow us out into the waiting room to basically give us some kind of pity party or lecture or whatever. Can we wait? Not right now. Take a break. Because we weren't doing enough. Because we disconnected our energy. It's like she didn't know exactly what the problem was, but she knew we somehow were not doing enough to keep this man alive. And yeah, we weren't going to either. You know, our literal entire lives had been particularly from me at 8, which was when they moved back up here from Oklahoma and on. You know, it's like, I literally have mourned this man's death for 33 years, and he's not dead yet. It's like, there's no need to mourn. He's not dying, you know? And it's just literally, there's no need to drag it out that long, right? It's like, we're here to learn the lessons and then go into the next life. And he was just so afraid of dying that we're all supposed to be afraid of him dying. And it actually makes perfect sense, because now that he's gone, there's a lot that's crumbling in this family. And that's okay. It needs to. You know, and you can kind of see the reflection of that in the world at large, too, which is really kind of interesting for me to kind of just see the little glimpses of that. But anyway, so what I said to my mom was, at some point, because I took her into I said, what, you're not coming out to the waiting room? She's like, oh yeah. So she followed me out there, and then we sit there at this table, and I said, at some point, it has to be okay for this man to die. And, you know, she just kind of stared at me. I was like, the fact that he went to the nursing home and was back in the hospital the next day is a sign that he cannot survive on his own. The only reason he has made it this long is because you are feeding your entire life force into keeping him alive. You know, because every single time he was in the hospital, she was there overnight, every single night, except for like the first one, I think. And it's like, that's not good. That's not healthy. It's like, this is a very codependent thing, you know, and then of course she tries to spin it on me, and you are very codependent. And I was just like, yeah, because you raised me that way. you know, and I said, but that is not a conversation for today. That is a conversation for another day. I said, on the other hand, since it does have to be okay for this man to die at some point, I said, there's a really good chance he's just going to be right back in Randa's baby, right? Because my cousin was pregnant. And it's kind of funny because this man that hijacked every birthday and holiday to obsess over his death, this is what, like, these energetic cords are, like, really something, you know, especially with this family. I think, you know, he disconnected from one, but, like, all these connections with the rest of the family were still there, that I think they just ripped him back right back into the new body. And my cousin was due in April, and she mentioned, or she had a little post on Facebook to kind of celebrate their news, and she said, we can't wait to meet you in April. And after the baby was born, on her 30th birthday. So we're going right back into that same dynamic of hijacking birthdays and all that stuff, which, I mean, I'm sure my cousin was more than happy to share her birthday, her 30th birthday, with her firstborn. You know, that's probably not a problem. But just seeing, like, the family, especially since I've, like, run the baby's birth chart, it's like, there's no way that is not my grandfather reincarnated. And I'm sorry, but I cannot get excited about being around the baby. I just don't care. And, you know, nothing against my cousin or anything like that. We used to be really tight. But, you know, and this isn't, I mean, that's not my grandfather, right? That's just because his spirit has been jerked back into another body, in a toxic family dynamic. I mean, he's still here for different lessons. You know, he, in the last life, was very controlling and obsessed about appearances and doing everything to keep the illusion of happiness alive, the illusion that his family had it all together, you know, and it's just not what it was. So now, you know, he gets pulled back into the body of this child who has a ridiculous amount of water placements. This child has more Pisces placements than I have Cancer placements, and I got a bunch of Cancer. So it's like, I know. It's like, that's pretty woo. In and of itself, because, like, okay, I have Cancer rising in the first house, and my Cancer sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars are in the 12th house. Right, so a lot of it's hidden stuff too, even, you know, but I don't even remember everything for the baby, but he had like 6 or 7 Pisces placements. It's just like, ooh. I just ran that, and, you know, and I think his south node was in Virgo, and I've heard that has something to do with lessons you learned in the last life. So it's like, well, my grandfather's sun sign was Virgo, so it's like, that would make sense. But anyway, okay, going back to the bird, because that was like 5,000 detours ago. Yeah, so, okay, actually before that, you know, I've talked about, like, the class and the thing with the throat chakra to kind of open up the throat chakra and heal the thing that we weren't able to, like, for those of us who've had issues using our voice, which obviously with what I've talked about, that used to be a big problem of mine. You know, and all you have to do is look at any of my videos before, and you can kind of get that idea, because especially, like, the earliest ones were kind of awkward, like painfully awkward, because I was so unsure about using my voice, and it was, like, terrifying. You know, then especially as I started talking more, you know, and addressing the stuff that was going on with me, and finding how much of the stuff I was needing to work through and heal through was because of the toxic family dynamic, right? So on that end, that knowing that I had of, I was always going to be the one to use my voice in a way that would eventually, you know, I mean, be the demise of the family, if you will, because the illusion can't live any further. It's like, I'm done with the illusion. And it's taken, you know, like this whole YouTube thing has been how I've been processing what's been going on and getting it out of my system and healing it, right? So my talk therapy, you know, and it's kind of funny because like I can get really chatty in these videos, but then at the same time, I'm also the same person that when I'm around actual humans, it's like I kind of clam up, and it's like, I don't know how to use words and do things, and you know, so like the group on like the Wednesday night class has been really good, but even then, like when I do share things, it's like I start getting really anxious and, you know, kind of choke on my words, kind of a thing, from time to time, and you know, it's just part of the process. So, and the healing the throat chakra, right? So we did this thing last night, and there were like two things that were a focused healing, like the whole chakra system, and then there was the singing bowl, and you know, I had mentioned also that the friend had made some inappropriate comments before, and you know, that was part of like the spiel when I was like, you know, I mentioned that, and then I mentioned this stuff with the family, and then I talked about the hawk and the blackbirds, and you know, then the deal with the cardinals came up, right? And as we were kind of doing this little for the chakra healing stuff, you know, I kind of just like turned in and was communicating with the divine, if you will. And my first thing was I going to go to the restaurant? And I had the sense that no, I wasn't. But not because there was anything I needed to avoid in it this time. Like the one time when I should have turned in to reflect and see if it was okay to go, and didn't, you know, then everybody goes political at the table, and it's like, I already ordered food. I have to wait on the food to show up, you know, and then I have to pay for the food. It's just like all this stuff just like kept like coming at me, and it was stuff I had no interest in, and I tried to keep myself distant from because of what I'm going to share here. Okay, so going back, before that, still dealing with the cardinal. After, you know, okay, if Lisa was going to go to the restaurant after, then I had planned to go, but since, you know, they ended up, all of them having to leave for something, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna go home, you know, because I didn't feel like I was really dying to go per se. Okay, delivery truck for the next house. But yeah, so I didn't go, and on the way home, you know, I realized it's like the cardinal situation that came up in the class because somebody else was sharing this positive thing about it, and then I shared this like little life lesson kind of thing on it, and of course that one brought it down a notch because that's not near as uplifting as, you know, wondering if they have nests nearby but not knowing where it's at and all that stuff. So when I was on the way home, I realized that like the other person having this experience with cardinals was specifically to bring my situation up with the, you know, remembering what had happened over the weekend with our cardinals, right? And like Mama Bird's fine. I've seen her. I mean, not, it's been a couple days, but I've seen her, and if we tend to the bird feeder, she'll be back, I'm sure, unless they find better food somewhere, who knows. But I realized on the way back, it's like, I feel like that Mama Cardinal is kind of a reflection of me. And what I mean by this is, I've talked about my struggles on self-sabotage. I'm gonna, hold on. Okay, figured it was just easier to mute that, or to pause the video while the sirens were going past because this is a one-way road, so they can only go that way anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so I've talked about my self-sabotage tendencies, right? Like my picture right here. That dude was entered into a contest that the only reason I entered it into that contest was because all I knew about the prize-wise was the possibility of being the centerfold for the Zoo magazine, right? So then I had the ordeal in January where I found out I won the contest with this picture right here. This was the one from the magazine, actually. And like literally the only reason I put that in there for the contest was because nobody else had acknowledged it, and I thought it was really kind of a cool picture, and I thought maybe somebody else might enjoy it, right? So I submitted that because there wasn't a prize that I knew of, and other than, you know, being the centerfold, right? So of course when I won, then, you know, my parents, within a half an hour of finding out that I won, had hijacked the moment and made it this thing where, like, I cried the rest of the day because they literally, like, tried to ruin the moment. It's like, oh, you did something good? No, no, you're not worthy of that. You know, you don't deserve good things to happen. This kind of bullshit, right? The ongoing thing for my life. So I realized that, you know, it's like I've always had this tendency to self-sabotage because of my toxic family. And of course, now that I've realized this from various layers, I'm ready to get the hell up out of here and start doing worthwhile things, right? But like, you know, I've always known that writing is supposed to be a big part of what I'm supposed to be doing. But then every time I would sit down to write, it's like I would automatically go into self-sabotage mode because I, like the little cardinal out there, you know, she pushed the egg out of the nest because she deemed it unsafe, you know, so she had to go find a new place to build her nest, right? But, you know, and that's like, I mean, totally legit. I get that, right? But I realized it's like, that's literally what I've been doing my whole life with the self-sabotage thing. It's like, every time I have the opportunity to do something worthwhile, I make sure to shut it down for myself because it is not safe for me to have something that allows me to shine in any kind of way. Because my family has shown me time and time and time again that it is not safe because they will bring it back to how I don't deserve it. You know, we'll go back to that whole worthiness thing, and it'll be like this big thing all over again. So it's like, it's never been safe to do the things, right? To enter the contest and take a chance at winning a thing. You know, if there was a prize, I would not have put that picture in the contest at all because I would have automatically assumed that I was not good enough to win it. And, you know, and that's so silly because like that was the bear. That was all on the bear. This was like I was just in the right place at the right time and took a picture, and it ended up being a really good picture, and it ended up winning the contest, right? But if I had known that there was any kind of prize, I would not have put in for it because my family would hijack it, right? So, you know, like going back to that drumline thing where, you know, we won this like world championship thing, and as I'm trying to swallow my pride to approach my mother and thank her for her contribution to the program that got us there, she comes to me first and says, I deserve this as much as you do. It's like, Dad, it's like, it is not safe to have things that are potentially worthwhile around here. It's just not been, right? So another thing that I was realizing with that on the way home last night was like the friend that said the things that, you know, were borderline and flat out appropriate, right? So there were different layers of that. It's like, even that, he's not like the family and just intentionally trying to destroy anything for me. That's not what that is. But what it is I've been doing my own healing work. I've spent hours, you know, trying to figure out what's been going on with me and making sense of everything that has been going on so I can heal from it, you know, and move on beyond it. And, you know, for him to come at me with like all this stuff and all the ways that, yeah, what, I'm not even going into it. It was literally, I told him too much about the twin flame stuff, honestly. And he was trying to spin that to put himself in that space, right? Because, you know, I've talked very much, very frequently, that this whole twin flame thing is the reason, like exclusively the reason I have been able to stay focused on this path and doing the healing. The twin flame connection is the only reason that I was able to start this YouTube channel to begin with. You know, and I talked about how I went live on Instagram for less than a minute and I cried immediately afterwards because it just took so much out of me, you know, emotionally, because my whole life has been, you know, like all these different layers of people like trying to cut me down and keep me from stepping into what I'm here to do. And I just saw 5 as I'm talking about this, which that's all about change. So yeah, so like the friend, it's like he has heard me say things about the twin flame stuff, and extensively, because, you know, I told him, it's like, no, you're not this for me. And I've told him who the person is and like given an extensive amount of information about how I know it is this person, and like weird connections and everything. Some of it I've shared in other videos, not all of it. But for him to spin it around and try to put himself in that spot, it's like, I'm doing the work because I want this highest timeline possibility scenario for me. I want that, right? I want to step into the fullest version of me that I came here to be, and without any of the junk getting in the way, keeping me from, or preventing me from being able to do it, right? And so for him to spin things that I've been saying and put himself kind of in that spot, it's not because he's a bad person by any means. It's literally, okay, he's probably getting caught up in the feelings because he got a lot of Pisces and also no Earth. But it's like, I've been doing all this work, so then he comes in and tries to get access to a level of me that he's not supposed to have. And I feel like that's kind of been where things have kind of been tricky my entire life, is because people literally, if there's anything that suggests that I'm supposed to have some kind of influence, then the energetic vampires latching on to your good energy is exactly what sucks the life out of your potential to find the true fullness of who you are and who you are here to be. So every connection that comes along that is not the exact match doesn't really serve any purpose but to pull you out of or away from the one that you're trying to get to, and at least in my situation, you know, because not everybody's here on the twin flame stuff, obviously. And, you know, I think, you know, there's a lot about if you have a twin flame in this lifetime, there's a really good chance it's your last lifetime. So, you know, on that end, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, but really good chance. Of course, the twins take on heavier, denser lessons and have like more stuff that they have to resolve before they are able to become fully who they are here to be on this planet, you know, and like all the different layers of working that out, you know, and he's literally been the thing that has kept me moving forward. And I've talked about the, you know, waking up and having like little visions and like scenarios that I've been having play out in my head, and then it takes me into something where it's like there's the traumatic moment, and then, okay, like I talk a lot about the one where it's like I saw him bringing me flowers, but then it was like the vision got stuck and I just kept getting all these flowers, and like the space around me is filled up with all these flowers until I panic because I get so uncomfortable and I say, stop, I don't deserve this. And then the vision stops and it says, why do you feel like you don't deserve this? I was like, well, literally because everything with my family, obviously, you know, but that's taken a while to bring me to this point, to really bring me to understanding that point too, you know. But the deal with the friend, it's like, he's very much not the twin, right? But he's trying to spin it so he could be, right? And you know, that was really what brought me to, you know, because it made me question myself, was the big thing. Like this whole deal with the friend, like, and everything that came up there, it made me question myself. And it was like, but he's not the one that I've been thinking about that has, you know, carried me through this entire healing process. That was never him. You know, it's always this other person that, yes, I still haven't met. You know, so like that's a whole nother weird dynamic of it too. It's like, I've not met this dude, but at the same time, we're still connected a lot more so than any of the connections that I've had otherwise. And that goes back to the idea of two parts of the same soul, right? So because of that, you know, I woke up this morning thinking he's the as above to my so below, and the as within to my so without. And yeah, it's like just like all these different layers to this connection that has always been around me at some level, even though I was completely missing it because I wasn't in the space that I could understand it and truly receive it. You know, and I've talked about like how you know, the birth date was following me around, you know, the name in my lifetime has followed me around, and his initials even, you know, and various places that those things have shown themselves to me, right? So this morning, you know, of course we do these like chakra things yesterday, healing things, and like the third chakra or the throat chakra thing with the singing bowl, and focused healing energy on that space. And this morning I spent a bunch of, well, not near as much time as I need to, but I spent some focused time writing after I was thinking about like this connection and like, you know, communicating with him within because he's always here. And you know, I know what I'm meant to be writing. And it's interesting to me too, because like some of, like, it's basically this story, right? Except for I don't have the confirmation because I still don't know this guy in person. Like, I met him in passing, but that's it. And other than that, it's just been like the energetic stuff that's been going on. And yet, my entire channel, I've talked about him a lot because I was always supposed to. You know, I've been talking about how this is building the foundation, right? So I've known for a long time that I'm supposed to be sharing this story of, you know, like our connection, and it makes even more sense for it to be that case if I'm sharing it in the space of I still haven't met him. And yet all I can do is trust everything that my intuition is guiding me through and all these layers of it that I have actively seen in my lifetime, you know, and that I've shared a lot of on this channel. Because, you know, this is the foundational stuff. So when I finally, you know, publish the book that talks about the thing that makes me sound like I'm completely crazy, I mean, that was always a big part of what I've been supposed to do, which is why it's added another layer of like sheer terror to the fact that I know I'm supposed to be writing. You know, and it goes back to that where if I'm sharing these things, and obviously if I have the name and the initials and the birth date and all this stuff, it's like, obviously there's a specific person in mind, right? So the little bits that I've included in the videos along the way, and of course, you know, we're up over 200 videos at this point in time. So it's like, I can't comb through all of that and like get rid of the things that talk about him. It's like, it's there, you know, so it's like this stuff is there. And, you know, even, you know, before I talked about the August 19th thing, because 819 follows me everywhere, and I've talked about it on that one specific stone at the cemetery, and the guy died in 2001. And I always looked at that damn tombstone, and I thought it was because he had been born in 1980, which was the same year my brother was born. So, you know, he was born in January, my brother was born in December, but it's still 1980, so it always kind of drew my attention, I thought, for that purpose. I realized last year that the date the guy died was this guy's birthday, the Twin Flames' birthday, and it's like, okay, so back in like March or April, you know, when I was doing videos and I wouldn't talk about him or say the name or anything, I was still talking about that stone. And, you know, so that stone's still there. And nothing's changed on it in all these years. It's just, it took me a long time to realize the message, or like the piece that I was missing from it was just because I didn't have all the information at the time. But that's literally been like my entire life and like this entire journey. So it's like everything is literally bringing me back to this one space. And that is exactly what I'm meant to be sharing in the writing arena. And, you know, which is terrifying in and of itself because, well, because what if you're wrong, right? Except for I feel really confident at this point in time that I'm not wrong because of all the different layers of it. And because, you know, like when the friend inserts himself in the middle of this thing and I spend the night wavering because am I just crazy? You know, and maybe this is good enough, right? But it's not. Because that's literally just another distraction when I'm so freaking close. And I know I'm so freaking close because I've cleared so much other stuff out of my system. Like even like with what's going on astrologically and like this current space too, it's like that's a whole another layer of it. It's like, oh, everything's like right on point. It's like we're just like right on track with where we're supposed to be at this point in time. And you know, and if I've spent the past couple years talking about these things and the stories haven't changed, and then turns out to be true, what's that say for everything spiritual? Because that's literally the thing that's been moving me on this the entire time was like that whole spiritual element and Yes, you do know things, even though you think you don't, or you let everything else talk you out of it. You know, and even that friend was, you know, like that mama cardinal, right? Shoved the egg out of the nest because it wasn't safe. It's like, even that moment of questioning the friend and, you know, thinking about that situation, that scenario, and, you know, is the twin flame really a lofty situation that I'm completely out of my mind on thinking about? Or is it literally the thing that, yeah, the divine's going to use to really shake shit up when, hey, you can know things, you know? And I think that, like, that's the biggest part of it, honestly, is because you can know things, and we're just given all these distractions along the way from other people that are trying to prevent us from stepping into the fullness of our light and the fullness of our authenticity and who we are here to be, because they're afraid of the change, you know, that's going to come when we all realize that we're all connected, you know, and that you can know things and you do know things. But we're just, you know, we grew up in a world where it hasn't been safe to know things and share things and, you know, experience the fullness of what we're here to experience, right? So, yeah. So all that to say, I spent some time this morning writing, and I feel like I have a whole, like, it's just, I'm even more looking forward to the project, you know, itself, and doing the things, and bringing them into form, bringing them to the life that they're supposed to have, you know, and being able to step into the life that I'm meant to have, you know, in spite of all the blackbirds trying to tear me down in the process, and you know, yeah, and then, like, that's the big point too. Is like, you know, I've talked a lot about, you know, vultures for transmutation, and hawks are the messengers. So it's like, those of us who've been drawn to the vultures, it's because we're literally here transmuting the densities to make the space, clear out the death, so we can step into this new level, a new way of being. And, you know, and the hawks too, as messengers, you know, and being able to share the higher vision and, you know, bring that down into this physical space. Yeah. And since I'm pretty confident I did not share this again, I'm not going to say I'm not positive. I got the shirt today that I'm super stoked by. I don't know why I ordered it in extra large. That's unfortunate because it's a little big, but I'm still going to wear the shit out of it. But I was super excited. And yeah, so new band shirt, Rotting Christ, non-servium. So stoked. I sent my brother the pictures of the front and back of it, and he's like, I said I can't wait or something, and he's like, you're getting a Rotting Christ shirt before I do. And I was like, yep, I guess so. And he said he has others that he's still going to get first, but yeah. And then here's the back of it. But I was so super stoked, and then it came today, and then I'll probably wear it tomorrow, but yeah. So that's my spiel for the day. My ears just started buzzing. Oh, I know. Okay. When I was sitting in my office, I was getting ready to, I had just finished eating and was getting ready to spend more time writing. And I look up, and that Sacred Destiny Oracle, like, was looking at me. It's like, it has a message for me again today. Not you, hush. So I pulled the deck and I flipped the cards out into my hand, right? So just turn the box over, and there's the, put it in my hand, and all the cards come out, with the face up, because, I put them in the box face down, so of course that's how they're going to come up. But anyway, you're distracting me. I appreciate your love, though. It's like I didn't even have to shuffle. It's like that message was waiting on me from the last time I was in that deck a couple days ago. And I remember the purity card being on the bottom because it's got this wolf with like 2 different color eyes. And I didn't even have to look at the guidebooks for them. Like I just pulled the cards up, or pulled the cards out, and I see purity, and like I'm immediately thinking about like the message with the cardinal. It's like even one, you know, even with the best intentions, you know, can still pull you out of that and like pull you away from what is meant for you, because you know that the good thing's there, right? You know that it is right there and it's right around the corner, and you have to keep your energy clear, because if you don't, it's literally just that easy to shift into buying somebody else's bullshit, and suddenly you're off balance and questioning everything but that's not the one that's made me move on this thing. That's not the, like, sure, it'd be okay, he's a good guy, but he's not the one that's literally, you know, been escorting me through this whole healing process at this energetic level. He's not the reason that I've kept moving when I haven't wanted to, you know. And you know, so that purity card, it's like I'm just looking at it, it's like, because even just that little bit of a wobble can throw the whole thing off. So then it's all about trust, which was the second card that came, or that was under that. And it's like, it's trusting, you know, the message that I already have been receiving along the line, and like all the ways that I've seen it all throughout my life, even in the time I was still acting from that space where, like, you know, everything was still concealed by the veil. You know, it's trusting even when you can't see anything, you know, and knowing that you have the security, which was the third card, to, you know, you're protected, you're safe on this path to do the thing that you know you're here to do, the thing that you're supposed to be doing, the sharing the story that you're meant to share, and you know, giving the divine the opportunity to work through you and move through you in a whole different layer, right? So put that. And then like the next card was, what was the next one? Focus. Focusing on bringing the thing into the physical space, you know, bringing it into form, putting forth the effort to do the writing and to put it out there as I know I'm meant to. And there were 17s. 17's been following me a lot too. And I watched a Kino Tarot reading yesterday, and well, actually I watched it 2 days in a row, and the extended, because I'm pretty sure that one's accurate for me. And it was another one of those, it's like soulmate readings, and like everything she was talking about, it's like I feel like that's exactly on point. And she said she felt like either the 17th, like May 17th, or 17 days from now, like that's somehow important. And then like she had another one that was a completely different reading that she did on Instagram, Kino readings, and you know, she puts like a little thing, you know, pick your pile, and then, you know, she'll have like a little message typed out kind of a thing. And it's like even that one, the one that I got, which is a completely different message, still had the 17th or 17 days. And then I keep seeing 17s at the top of this thing, right? So, oh yeah, focus. That clearly is part of my trouble, because I wander a lot. But it is what it is. Stop, dude. And yeah, 3, 2, 1 on the clock. Hey, Gadget. So yeah, but the focus, and then the last one was illumination. And it's like, you know, because like this whole thing, following the path, following what lights you up, following what you know you're here to do. It's like that is leaving space for, you know, the divine to illuminate a whole lot of things that wouldn't have been possible had you not followed through with what you're here to do, to be doing, to be sharing, and all these things, right? So, yeah. that was like the first time today where I just like, it's like I knew that deck had a message because it just kind of popped out at me. So I pulled it out, and then it was just like the bottom 5 cards. It's like the ones that I just pulled up. It's like, these were waiting for me from the last time, right? So just a few days ago, I had that deck out and was pulling cards, and those were the 5 that remained on the bottom. And the next ones were relevant too, because the next one was delight, and then happiness was under that. And it's like, I feel like all of these things, just all the different connections. I think things are getting ready to get exciting, and I like that very much. I feel like, I've talked a lot about how I feel like once things start shifting and the good stuff starts rolling in, it's just like going to keep rolling in, and I feel like I'm right there. And last night when I was on my way back from the class, I really was thinking about it. It's like, even with the people in the class, I feel like where I'm at right now is right on the verge of this big, massive breakthrough. And I feel like there's a really good chance that I'm going to be spending less time in that space with them. Not because there's anything wrong with that space or any of those people, but I just feel like right now I'm kind of, in a way, needing to hermit a little more, just so I can maintain the clearness of energy. So, so like the toxic family, like yesterday, and all that drama. So that stuff is less likely to latch on, not carry out. Okay, with the friend, it's like I've thought about, it would be really nice if I could just like shut my phone off until I am done with this writing project. But I know, because, my brother and Gracie, then it's really not completely logical. But it would be nice to not hear from some people for a while. But yeah. And it's funny because, like, that connection too, it's like I needed that connection for the time that I had it. But I think this is the more important lesson that I needed to learn from it too, was it doesn't matter how good intention somebody might be. It's still just, all they need to do is insert that one little bit of the wobble, and it can literally throw everything off. And like, if I was the version of me that I used to be, like back in high school, because high school, when I was with the one guy, the first boyfriend, I knew he wasn't it, and and I tried breaking up with him like 3 times, and we always got back together because it's like the rest of the world made me feel bad about it. It's like, after we'd been broken up for a month, his sister ended up in my section and band, and it's like, she's going to make my life a living hell if we're not together in the time that she is in my section. And at that point, I think I had a couple years with her, and no, I don't think she was in the first year. I have to confirm. No, I'm pretty sure she wasn't in the first year, because we had like, I'm not going to commit to that, because the very first year was my sophomore year, and we had a bunch of seniors that were like assholes and like didn't want to take anything seriously, which we were trying to figure out our way through the thing anyway. So it's like a whole lot of awkward growing experiences, life lessons kind of things, and testing the waters on what we could do and should do and would do. And I don't remember if the sister joined the section the next year or the year after that, but I know at one point it's like, she's going to be in my section, she's going to make my life a living hell if he and I are not together. So it was more like just appease that situation, and also because I knew he was a safe space compared to all the bullshit I was dealing with because of that transmutation point, where all the heavy, dense energies kind of just like flock to you and latch on and try to pull you down. That's literally what I've been here doing my entire life, and I just never realized it until I started healing and making space for this other thing to be true. And it took me a while. Like, it took me a long time before I started actually talking about the twin flame stuff on here, because I was afraid of what if I'm wrong. And now I'm at the point of, it has been following me far too closely all along the way. It has literally been the thing that's pushed me into healing when I would not have wanted to. So it's like, it's not realistic that it's not an actual thing that's happening, right? So, I mean, maybe a lot of people probably won't like the wordage, but, you know, screw it. That's it's the wordage that I got at this point in time. So, and it's just because, you know, there's spaces where people do give a shit about that stuff as well, you know, and ultimately that comes back to no two people are exactly the same, right? So every different layer of your personality that takes you into different spaces and gives you some sort of right to be there, if you will. It's like in your core divine essence of who you truly are at the deepest core of your being. It's like, that's because, you know, and no two people have exactly the same makeup. So it's like, whatever you're here to do is specific for you, right? And what we're doing essentially is building bridges through all these different pieces. Like, okay, like I did the drumline stuff. That was a big part of my identity growing up. Then there was a time when I was in the military, you know, and then there was a time I went to seminary. So it's like all these different pieces. It's like they were all just necessary parts of the path, but that serve the bigger purpose of bridging gaps where, you know, where the gaps have been throughout history, you know, and we all have a different makeup because we're all here to do slightly different things, or completely different things, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go spend some time writing, like actually writing, because I'm all excited about all of this now. It's like I feel like I'm more ready to embrace the fullness of who I'm here to be, especially since I saw the situation with the friend, and past me would have said good enough because it was safe, right? Because at least it's not like the assholes that I grew up around, right? But it's like the very thing that brought us together was the toxic history, you know, family connections. But it still forced me to step up and choose to say the thing that needed to be said, the back off thing, because I knew that wasn't right for me. And because I know he's not the reason that I've literally gone through all this work to heal all these parts of myself that otherwise I wouldn't have, right? So, yeah. Anyway, on that note, about an hour and a half in, I'm going to wrap this up and go do the writing thing. And it's awful windy. I don't know that I want to skate, but at the same time, it's really nice. I might want to skate, so yeah. We'll have to see what happens on that end. But I definitely want to write. So, go ahead and wrap this up. And as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.